This one is a book that I bought recently and read. I'm sure that a lot has already been said about all of Ray Bradbury's work already, so I'm sharing this one with you, not really as a critical review so much as one that I just found interesting and I thought that you either might like if you haven't read it, or you might have thoughts on if you have read it. So, The Martian Chronicles is a science fiction novel published in 1950. My beautiful little burnt orange copy is from its 42nd printing in 1976, and I think it's just really cute. The color reminds me of old Tupperware from the 70s, and it has loads of these sort of diabolical little details in its cover illustration when you look closely at it, like skulls and like space bats and stuff. It's beautiful. The book is structured as a set of chronicles, with each chapter being short story vignettes or narratives in the history of man exploring and colonizing Mars. Some of the short stories were initially published elsewhere, and Bradbury's publisher asked him to write bridging chapters and more stories to flesh it out into a book. And this is done really skillfully and seamlessly so that you really wouldn't know that it was ever separate stories. The stories in the book are set in what was then the future. My copy has them dated from 1999 to 2026, which is pretty quaint. I love it. Some later reprints used added 30 years and kind of pushed that time back to sort of put the story further in the future than that. The book envisions humans sending rockets from Earth to Mars with a 1950s sensibility of the future. So this is one of the joys of this novel, the sense of the future through the eyes of the 50s. So there are no women astronauts, for example, and spaceships are shaped like rockets, and there's a fear of nuclear war hovering over the world, which is a big concern in the 50s. And there's some really great imaginative ideas about what homes and books and technology and things like that might look like in the future. And there was a house that had a bed that was like a vapor cloud, which, I don't know, that sounds so nice. One of the other delights of this book is that the stories themselves have that post-war dark cynicism that you sometimes used to see in things like film noir or those bleak episodes of The Twilight Zone from this era. When the 50s wasn't doing Technicolor musicals, it could get pretty bleak about the future and human nature. Some of these stories can take a really dark turn, and I love it. Other times, the Martian race are quite dark, not always what they seem, or not always having good intentions, or sometimes they're just so suburban that they're dangerous to the people from Earth. If that was like the sum total of this book, I would have really enjoyed this, but there's a little bit more to it than that as well. Bradbury, in a lot of ways, isn't really talking about Mars. He's talking about Americans, the world, humanity, and some of his sort of philosophical or social concerns. The dark and fatal destruction of all that's beautiful. In his mind, if people went to Mars, they would just destroy it and bring all the same problems with them to their new planet. The planet would soon be colonized, the previous inhabitants dead before anything was really learned about them or from them. And it would soon just be filled with trash and litter, small-minded bureaucracy, mined for its minerals. People would put up hot dog stands and destroy the old buildings for something to do on a Saturday afternoon. In the Martian Chronicles, humanity is doomed, basically. The stories draw parallels to concerns of the 50s, like nuclear war, nuclear family, but also to some universal themes like environmentalism, conservation, indigenous people, civil rights, censorship, and like other themes like that that are still relevant. And sometimes it's just so dark. I know I keep saying that, but that's what I liked about it. This wasn't one that I was really drawn to reading on its own merits initially, really, but I recently bought like a huge stack of beautiful old school paperbacks, and I chose to pick this one up as well because I've actually been looking for the author's book, The October Country, and the copy at the library has been pinched. So don't steal library books, you naughty people. It's rude. I'm not the hugest Ray Bradbury fan, to be honest. I know some people really love him. I can't remember what the first book of his was that I read, but I remember just being like distinctly unimpressed. But then I read Fahrenheit 451, and that kind of gave me a new appreciation for him, not so much as a writer, but his ideas and his kind of understanding of what could happen in the future and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a huge science fiction person on the whole, but I enjoyed these stories a lot. Some of them were dark, some of them were poignant or sort of mystical, and I loved how very of their time they were in some ways, but then also very forward thinking and unique in others. So they're also quite passionate about their subject, and sometimes they're very down to earth, oddly enough. So I enjoyed this one more than I expected to. If you have read this one, I would love to hear what you think. Are you somebody who loves Ray Bradbury? Any of his books you particularly like or didn't like? Let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching. You can check out some of my other videos. I also have another channel and socials, so you can find links below if you want more of that. And if you want to hang out again, remember to like and subscribe. And you can always leave a comment, let me know what you thought, or let me know what else you might want to see. Thank you.